What's up, guys? I'm your host, John Kramer. In today's episode of the Just Stop podcast, after reviewing the NFL's Top 100 list a few times, I've basically come up with a few hot takes about it, about some of the terrible rankings that they did. So we're gonna review all that. I'm gonna give you some thoughts on everything. This is the Just Stop podcast. Alright, started off, got this Excel spreadsheet. I 100% took this idea from Purple for the Win because I like the way he has this out. So to start off with I have the notable ranks. I basically ran it through, looked at all the rankings that I didn't agree with, and some Vikings rankings. So I wanted to run through some of them. First of all, Trevor Lawrence at number 96 overall, considering Justin Fields is at 86, Geno is at 77, Jared Goff is at 66, Aaron Rodgers at 51%. At 51, how is Trevor Lawrence at 96 at number 96? I just realized I didn't put in his passing yards. 66 completion percentage, 25 touchdowns, interceptions. Granted, he didn't really make a name for himself until the second half of the wild card game against the Chargers when he came back from 27 points down with Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, and Zay Jones as his receivers. On any other team without a good quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, that receiving core would have been considered probably bottom half of the league because not a single one of those guys are stars. Until this year, that is. But I don't know how. I don't get how you can put Trevor Lawrence that low at number 96. I would not have been surprised if he made it in the 30s, 40s rankings, but number 96 is way too low. Got Harrison Smith was at number 97, which nice to see him on it again. Last year he actually didn't make it at all. EK54, which is an EK54 nickname I give him because I have him in Madden Ultimate Team at number 93. He should not be on this list at all. He really shouldn't. 0 interceptions, 6 pass defense, he had 1 fumble recovery, and he was returned for a touchdown, 137 tackles. But last year, those stats, I mean, I have to look at more linebackers, but those stats may look okay. But just watching him in real time was sad to watch. He took a really big step back in coverage. He's no longer an easy top 2, top 3 linebacker in coverage in the league like he used to be, alongside like Levante David, Fred Warner, maybe Roquan Smith, other guys like that, or I don't know, maybe Luke Kuechly or Bobby Wagner of the past. He shouldn't be on this list at all. Number 91 was Dalvin Cook. Again, I guess he should be on this list. That ranking maybe not specifically. I don't know what I think about that. 1,173 yards, his fourth straight season with over 1,100 yards. And I think he's the only player currently who has had over 1,100 yards each of the last 4 seasons. After Dalvin Cook was cut by the Vikings, there were so many people, especially Vikings fans, who were confused on why Quasido Fomensa would cut a four-time Pro Bowler with 1,100 yards each of the last 4 seasons. What people don't realize is if you watched him in 2020 and then watched him this year, sure, he always has the one huge play a game. He always did this year. He had like the 81-yard touchdown against the Bills, a 61-yard touchdown against the Colts. He had a touchdown against the Dolphins late in that game. But he had 400 fewer yards than he did in 2020 when he played fewer games. This was his first fully healthy season. 17 games he ran for 1,173 yards. That's like 60 yards per game. In 2020, he played 13 games and ran for 1,550 yards. I think 1,553 yards to be exact. And he also had 16 touchdowns. This is actually his lowest yards per carry of his career, 4.4 yards, because in 2020 he averaged 5 yards per carry on the money. That year, J.K. Dobbins averaged 6, but J.K. Dobbins carries like 6 times a year before getting injured. Tua at number 82. Again, this is with relation to, mostly with relation to Trevor Lawrence. Early in the season, every time when he was starting early in the season, obviously they had I think they had like the 3 straight wins, 3 straight losses, 5 straight wins, 5 straight losses, something like that. And every time Tua was starting, like early in the game, I think it was when he played a full game, they always won. And he was legitimately really good at the start of the season. With a 65% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns, interceptions, and notice that's almost exactly the same as Trevor Lawrence. And Tua Tagovailoa, he just sort of had a false starting with his concussion against the Bengals that took a massive toll on his season. He could have been in an MVP conversation had he not gotten so many concussions this year. And of course, now this year, most teams that go with the quarterback is like to make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. For Tua, there's always these jokes that he just wants to survive this season because he's had so many concussions. A lot of doctors have even said he shouldn't play football down again, considering how much trouble he's had to his head. Number 77, Geno Smith. I'm okay with the ranking. Most of these quarterback rankings, I'm okay with. Jared Goff should not be this high though. He had a good statistical year, so maybe I'm just mad that I just don't like Jared Goff because he plays for the Lions. Most of these quarterback rankings are in relation to Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence is number 96, there should be the only quarterbacks that should be on this list that then are Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I guess maybe Tua, Kirk Cousins. I agree with because I'm biased, but he also had eight fourth quarter comeback wins this year. And like Justin Fields, Tua, Jared Goff should not be on this list. Dak Prescott, I also don't think he should be on this list, especially because he played only 12 games and led the league in interceptions. He shouldn't be anywhere on there. But Jared Goff, I guess he had a really good statistical year. I'm not sure. I've never looked at his stats, but last year, the year before, in 2021, he had a bad year, except for when he beat the Vikings. Debo at 61. I don't even think Devontae Smith was 100 overall, was number 100 on this list. Deebo Samuel should not be 39 spots ahead of Devontae Smith. 56 receptions, 632 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and then 42 carries for 232 yards. That is 864 total yards. Just over 50 yards per game total, off of 98 touches. He shouldn't have been anywhere near that. Number 56, Dak Prescott, 12 games, 66 completion percentage, 60 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. Not even a good stat line that would warrant a top 100 list, but especially not this high up. Number 51, Aaron Rodgers, his first season ever throwing more than 8 interceptions, and he threw 12, 2 against the Vikings, I think, or maybe just 1. 26 touchdowns, 3,700 yards, 65% completion percentage. He was worse than every single quarterback on this list, undoubtedly. Number 42, Kirk Cousins. He's a 6th ranked quarterback on this list, which I think is a pretty accurate ranking for last year, especially the games that we won, yes. But Kirk Cousins, he's just like every other quarterback in the NFL. If he has more than 2 seconds to throw the ball, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He can. Where am I trying to go with this? If he has time to throw the ball, he can pick apart any defense that he wants, just like most quarterbacks. If he's under pressure, it's kind of a flip of the coin. This year, he was noticeably better when he was under pressure than most years. But besides that, I don't know much to say about him. Kirk Cousins after this year became my favorite quarterback in the league. Before that, I was kind of had mixed feelings about him. But number 42, I like seeing him that high up. Saquon Barkley was 4 spots above Christian McCaffrey. Look at these stat lines. You know exactly whose is whose. How did Saquon Barkley finish above Christian McCaffrey? 4 spots isn't that many, but how did he finish above him in any way? Christian McCaffrey split the year with 2 different teams and still played better. He split the year playing in 2 different offenses, 2 different offensive schemes. Granted, he went from one of the worst with the Panthers to one of the best with the 49ers, but still, Saquon Barkley should not have been above Christian McCaffrey, especially considering Christian McCaffrey has renamed himself as the best running back in the league for most people. Number 27, TJ Watt. and you play 10 games and land number 27. He wasn't even that good in these 10 games. He had half a sack a game, 39 tackles, so he had what 4 sacks a game, not even. 4 tackles a game, half a sack, and he lands himself at number 27. Number 26, Jair Alexander landed above Patrick Surtain on this list. Unsurprisingly, Sauce Gardner was cornerback 1 because he holds every play, but he also had 20 passes defense and 75 tackles. By looking at these two stat lines, 20 pass defense, I guess you could maybe say that Jared Alexander had the better statistical year with 3 more interceptions, but at the same time, not every... Jalen Ramsey has been the consensus number 1 cornerback in the league before this year for like 4 or 5 years, and he has never been an interception machine. Even in 2017, I think he only had 2 interceptions. So, just because you get a lot of interceptions doesn't mean you're elite, especially if Jair Alexander, number 26 was way too high for him. And then 3 more interceptions than Sauce Gardner, but at the same time 6 fewer passes defended and 19 fewer tackles. Okay, how in the world did Minkah Fitzpatrick land 12 spots above Derwin James? Yes, these are the 2 consensus top safeties in the league, just overall safeties, whether it's free safety, strong safety coverage, or box safeties. How does he land that high above Derwin James? Now looking at this, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whose stat line this is. I just put this down. I did not think to have them together like I did with these, but Derwin James has been the consensus top safety basically since his rookie year, and Minkah Fitzpatrick has never really been up there on the list. Always been top 10, maybe even top 5, often even top 3, but not he's never made a consensus as the number 1 cornerback in the league. Now, Josh Jacobs, unsurprisingly, is RB1 after leading the league in yards. I'm not sure if this is the most touchdowns. Wait, no. No, Jamal Williams had like 17, so that's definitely not the most. Then 4.9 yards per carry. I'm not sure how that compares across his career, but I'm pretty sure for powerbacks that's kind of low because normally powerbacks will get like 12, 13, 14 carries per game, but they all go for like 7 yards at least. So I think that's a little bit low considering he's a powerback. And then 1653 yards, 12 touchdowns, RB1. There's no surprise there. And then this is what I mean. T.J. Watt at number 27. If he had gotten in 10 games, if he had gotten 8, 9, even 10 sacks and maybe 50 tackles, then maybe we can say that. But Aaron Donald in 11 games ranks number 11 with 5 sacks and 49 tackles. Granted, if you scale both of these stat lines to 17 games, T.J. Watt gets 9, maybe 10 sacks and gets like 70 tackles, and then Aaron Donald gets about 8 or 9 sacks and again 50 tackles, maybe like 80 tackles, 75 tackles. But still, you cannot. These are the top players. These aren't specifically just like the best players at the position. These are the top 100 players from last year. What 100 players played the best? By definition, if the best ability is availability, you cannot say that guys who missed 6, 7, 8 games last year, or 6 games, 7 games last year, you cannot say that they're top 30 in the league. Can't. Let's get into the snubs, because I'm not sure if you noticed, but T.J. Hawkinson was not on the list, even though after getting signed by the Vikings, he was second in the league for receiving receptions and yards among tight ends. Touchdowns, I'm not sure, but also Justin Tucker should just be perennially on the top list because he's always been the best kicker in the league. So, and he also, I guess kickers and punters are a bit harder to rank because unless you have like a kicker has a spectacular season like Justin Tucker had in 2021, when he had the 66-yarder, it's kind of hard to say how good they really are. And then Von Miller, I've said in the past that Von Miller had a noticeable step back, but at the same time, 8 sacks, 18 tackles. I think he could have at least snuck himself into the top 100 list. And even if he wasn't getting a sack every play, he was still causing a good amount of pressure. The NFL's top 10 list, by no surprise. Number 10, we had Chris Jones with 15.5 sacks, 44 tackles. We had number 9, Micah Parsons with 13.5 sacks and 42 tackles. I did not realize until now that Chris Jones had like a statistically better year. I should have shown the pressures here, but I didn't think to do that. Josh Allen, number 8, 42, 83 yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I could have included the completion percentage, but I didn't decide to. Number 7 was Tyreek Hill, 119 receptions, 17, 10 yards, and 7 touchdowns. This year, no receiver had like a lot of touchdowns, unlike the year before when Cooper Kupp had 145 receptions, 1,947 yards, and 17 touchdowns, or 16 touchdowns, I think. No receiver had a lot of touchdowns. I'm sure at least a couple had more than 10, but I can't remember. Number 6 was Joe Burrow with 4,475 yards. Wait. Okay, that's better. 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Number 5 was Travis Kelce with 110 receptions, 1338 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And Nick Bosa lands himself 18.5 sacks, 41 tackles, league leader in sacks, and Defensive Player of the Year. So number 4 only makes sense. Number 3, Jalen Hurts with 37.01 yards, 35 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is an elite stat line. Oh my word! More than 30 touchdowns and fewer than 10 interceptions is like by definition an elite stat line. Number 2, Justin Jefferson. Nice to see it. 120 receptions, 1809 yards, and 8 touchdowns by every metric better than Tyreek Hill. And then number 1, Patrick Mahomes, unsurprisingly, 5,250 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, even when he didn't have this man, his most electric offensive weapon. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Tell me what you thought about these picks, anything that you disagree with for the 2 people watching the video right now, or it's like 30, I don't know. Anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, comment the videos you want to see, and as always, never forget, the Packers will always suck, and Skol Vikings.